What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Ducks and Download. In this Black Series review, we're doing a two-parter because you have to open them together, especially when they arrive together. We have Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati, the two most amazing villains to come out of recent Star Wars media. I am so excited to see where these stories continue, and boy, do I hope Baylan's does. First off, of course, like always, it's still so fresh in my mind. Rest in peace to the actor who did an absolutely stellar job at bringing us Baylan Skoll. We have the side art there. This is a really good way to tell just exactly how long Baylan's hilt is, with having more of what is called like a actual broadsword or longsword styling. That's why Baylan's hilt is so much longer than a lot of the other ones you would see, much like with Shin here. Shin Hati, who is an amazing character, just an absolute fiery little fox, or wolf, speaking from the last name. But you can really kind of tell the difference here. If I kind of get it a bit more squared up. Shin's two hands on her saber versus Baylan's that hangs down almost from hip to knee. So a lot of people were wondering, because if you see the saber here that Baylan has, and then the one over here that Shin has, Baylan's saber is almost on par, if not just as long as Darth Malgus's figure. Now, Baylan Skoll is a taller man, he's much more imposing, and even Ray Stevenson, who played him, is also a very tall, broad guy. So I'm definitely excited to tear into both of these, see how they stand up to each other. I've kind of seen already that Shin is almost the exact same height as Baylan. So, aside from all of that, let's start cracking these guys open and see what we have. I've been super excited for both of these, as the Ahsoka series ended in just such an amazing note. And the Baylan Skoll character left on such a crazy cliffhanger. We had Shin Hati's character leaving on extremely, like, turmoilous moments, or really kind of judging and trying to figure out who Shin is as a Force user, really. Or is she an enemy? Is she going to turn an ally? Who knows? So then, to start things off, let's actually start with Shin Hati. I'll move Baylan over here real quick and start popping this open. Now, of course, like a lot of Jedi, or I should say Force-wielding figures, they are extremely simple and simplistic when it comes to accessories. Well, because the only accessory that really matters is the lightsaber. I disagree. I kind of do wish they would have like a cloak with them, or just one other accessory piece, a comm link, something. Maybe the map that they give to Morgan Elsbeth. Anything would have made it a little better in my eyes, but let's go ahead and take a look at this lightsaber. Alright, as you can see, it does have that very, very close to red orange, but it is definitely a shade off from the average red lightsaber that we get with dark side users. To help kind of show off that point, here is an Inquisitor's lightsaber right next to Shin Hati's. It definitely gives it much more of that orange vibe when you see the bright red right next to it. Really easy, nice, lovely peg system there, nothing too crazy. An absolutely gorgeous hilt. I love how the little ringlet on the back actually does swoop off to the side. It'll help it stick on her hip better. But it's just such an absolutely gorgeous hilt. Almost kind of like Kanan Jarrus inspired looking. Let's see if I can get a little closer to that camera for you all. Really gorgeous sculpting on this saber. I love the little ridges up here at the very top of the pommel. The way that the handle part looks. It's still just an absolutely gorgeous lightsaber, and I love that nice orange color, getting away from the dark red and showing them off with that more, dark Jedi vibe, because these aren't Sith. Is it just me, or are these figures getting harder to pull out of here? Maybe it's just me, but a lot of them have been really well formed, and it seems to happen a lot, especially up here by the head. There's a lip again, which is like holding the character in the shell. I don't know why that's necessary with the way that they pack it, but I digress. Alright, before we get too crazy further though, we got the nice back of the art there. Ahsoka Series 10. Set after the fall of the Empire, Ahsoka follows former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano as she investigates the emerging threat to the vulnerable galaxy. I'm gonna take a wild stab in the dark and say this is the exact same thing, doesn't it? Yep, it does. Wow. That's lazy. I don't like that. I feel like that's a very lazy thing to do, to just outright not even talk about the character. It's strange when they just mention the show as if we don't already know where Shin's from. All right. Well, first look of the figure. That little braid pokes out really well sitting in the front. I can tell that, from where it was sitting, it does have a bit of a warp to it, but with time, it'll rest back down. The clothing looks amazing. That nice green to this beige color. The bits of like muck and dirt that kind of go along the skirt. We have the clasps back here to hold the jerkin slash, tunic shirt together. Okay, we've got some floating arm pauldrons here, so that should help not get in too much way of articulation. Little T-pose for dominance. The hair on this one, I don't know. It looks even more bowl cutty than Shin Hati has, but that's probably just because, of course, like it's a piece of plastic on a head. You can't make it look more dynamic than that. But it does look nice. Let's see, we have the legs underneath, knee pads there, just barely exposed underneath, but just riding on the rim of the skirt front there. Hip armor on the outsides. If you notice, a lot of Mandos use their armor in the front. That's because they get shot at. They're getting frontal assault. Anyone who's fighting lightsaber on lightsaber knows you need the protection on the sides. So let's see how the legs do. We've already got a little stiff joint up here. I don't like how that's popping out. Yeah, there's like this little, arm piece right underneath here. I don't know if it's a shirt or what, but it keeps wanting to like move with the figure and not allow the arm to move as much. So that might just be this figure. It might just be because it's brand new and doesn't have enough, movement in it yet. But we got the new knees, of course. The skirt does stop a bit of movement in the back just because it starts to, as you can see, bunch right underneath the knee. So all you really have to do probably, let's see if we just remove that, pull it back a little bit. All right, yep. Then the legs can go back a little bit further. That's as far back as they can go, so don't expect anything too crazy from like a knelt position with these figures. It's kind of, again, one of the main reasons I liked the dual pin knees, because it allowed you more knee movement. Legs do swivel right below the knee. And let's see if the hips do too. Yes, there is swivel in the hips as well. The armor here is much more attached. Looks like it's attached to the back of the skirt almost. So it doesn't float around near as much as the pauldron does, but the pauldron looks nice. It doesn't want to move around too much on its own. It sticks pretty close to on center. It's not floating around too crazy heavy. We have kind of, not very good. Like that's as far back as she's gonna go. That's as far forward as she's going to go. So we're kind of missing a lot of articulation here in the hip and waist. It's not really moving around all that much. She can look slightly down, slightly up, and of course to the sides, no problem. This figure seems to be having a lot of problems though with like odd middle to torso to head movement. Arms and legs seem fine, but yeah, the torso and head is really lackluster in movement. All right, let's get a look at these hands. I've heard some reports about the hands being a little small, but those could easily warp in packaging and in shipping. They look pretty good to me. So let's go ahead and get the lightsaber in there. Ooh, does that detach or? Wow, that's new. This is probably the bendiest lightsaber I have ever seen. Wow, that hilt is extremely flexible, and I don't think it's in a good way. It almost doesn't want to go into the hand because it would rather flex than be pushed through. Usually accessories are a stiffer plastic. This one is very much not so. And again, I don't particularly enjoy that. It makes me feel like I'm going to break the piece. Oh, wow, yeah, her hand does not hold that lightsaber at all almost. You can see her smaller fingers down here, they don't even grip around it. I wonder if I can splay them out a little, make that work better. It works a little bit better, but the way that finger is positioned out, it's almost like she wants to be in a like soft hold kind of a method. And last I checked, she's not left-handed, so it would have been in the right hand. But the right hand is the only one that really has like the nice saber hold to it. The left hand, with that finger poking out, 100% tells me this is reused from a different character, or they were probably going to give her a blaster or something. I don't know. It just seems a little lackluster to have that hand so kind of open And yet these two fingers down here are so close that you have to open them to get it around. Now that I've kind of done that though, it doesn't want to shake out. It's nowhere near as loose as it was, but it will permanently kind of lean forward due to that finger not really being placed around the top. Let's see if we can't get into a few cool poses. So while trying to pose her, I've been noticing I'm trying to put the second hand underneath the saber, but it literally will not hold it whatsoever. Again, these fingers are just, they give her like the tiniest hand in the entire world. All right, let's see if I can't get that through there now. And the other issue is the fact that she kind of won't hold it two-handed. There's that kind of, it's just such a loose grip, if you can really even see that. But the other problem is she's not, like, she's barely holding on to the bottom of that lightsaber. There's almost no room because so much of the top part of the hilt has this guard and protecting part over it. She can almost barely use two hands on this hilt. So might just have to display her in more of a one-handed style, if for no other reason than she just simply can't do two-handed that well. The hands are tiny. That has so far been my biggest mistake. I just don't like how tiny these hands are. It should not be that hard to get the lightsaber in a hand. So as you all know, I always try to go for a nice kneeled position pose, and it won't work. That skirt up front is so tough, you can't get her knee to go up really all that far without it pushing it back down. Won't stay in position. If you go off to the side to make it look a little bit nicer, you know, so she'll come out through that slit there. It doesn't have the space for it and is just not sturdy enough. She wants to just constantly fall forward. So definitely no kneeling with this figure, sadly. I really gotta hope Baylan's figure is gonna do better, guys, because this one at the legs and stuff, it's just not doing anything. I can't have her in a walking pose, because again, she just wants to fall over. She's so, not really top heavy, just, it's such a wide stance to try and get her to move in, and she can't move forward because of that skirt. It won't work. This leg, because of these thick boots, that's it. They don't go forward. She will not pretty much do anything aside from stand there. Which now she's not even doing that. This is not looking good for the beginning of 2024 in the Black Series, guys. I love that we get Shin Hati, and I love the design and the look of the character's figure. It just does not pose well, like at all. She doesn't even have super tiny feet. These are actually rather okay sized feet. They don't have any too hard of like a grip or anything. They're not bent or malformed. It's doing that same thing though, where it's just making her feet go this way because they won't go the other way because she has these giant shins in the way. Like her feet literally won't go further, and I'm afraid they'll break if I try to push them any harder. So far, hey, look at that. We finally got her to stand up. It seems Shin is a one-handed only lightsaber user who can only stand face first to her problems. Seems kind of fitting from the show, but not for a collectible. I don't hate it. I just think there's a lot of work that could be done. New thing I've noticed too is she's really suffering from that dainty lady syndrome, as I like to kind of call it, where they can't have like thick arms or legs. This joint right here at the elbow, from the few times I've been moving it around, I'm honestly scared this thing's gonna break because it just does not want to hold up well. That elbow is just a really weak spot from trying to move it back and forth. I'm hoping, you know, maybe I'm now just being a little bit naysayer because the figure wasn't living up to expectations as I've gotten from a lot of the other Black Series female figures, especially like with Bastila Shan having recently come out and doing so good at standing. I don't get this. I don't get it. All right, guys, let me know in the comments, though. Do you have as many problems with her feet as I do? Because I literally, she wants to just fall. Like, she is standing so far back. Look at that. That is just her natural stance pose. Her feet are both flat on the ground, and she's leaning back that far. So, like, the feet just do not go forward. So I really don't know what to do. We'll have to figure it out, though, and move on to the next figure. Alrighty, guys, fingers crossed. Baylan doesn't have a lot of the same issues, because that's kind of annoying with Shin. Let's get him out of the box. There's Baylan. Looking good. Again, all hard goods. His skirt does have a bit more like movement to it. That should hopefully help. Bust out that saber there. Why? Why are they so bendy? I have never seen lightsabers this bendy before. I'm super curious as to what the quality assurance team decided, like, oh, this is fine. This super squishy, extremely bendable lightsaber, it'll help it not snap. It'll also help it not go in anybody's hand. A gorgeous hilt. One of the longest hilts we pretty much have in all of Star Wars. It has these nice little semi-guards here. 2 longer ones, 2 smaller ones. Activation here. Lovely long hilt here that'll really allow him to probably use both of his hands. If I can't get both of his hands on this, we've got more problems. Alright, let's get Baylan out. Alright, so when we're going to things like the head sculpt and things like that, it looks really good. The photo reel did very well with getting Ray Stevenson's likeness. Gorgeous green kyber crystal there in the belt. Was that his original crystal? Like, we don't know. It's amazing to see, though. Kind of this weird greenish effect on the armor to give it, like, some aging, I'm assuming. Same style of backing that Shin has for his jerkin. That's pretty interesting. Pauldron is also hooked inside, so it should allow for full movement. It definitely does. Ooh, that's a little strange. Comes down a little slow, but it's just plastic. That'll happen. Both arms look good. It can move freely, though, so you might have to move it back and forth every now and again. He's got very, very sturdy limbs. Already, so far, doing better. Oh, yeah, he can actually kind of look down. Actually kind of straighten himself up, but so far, better waist articulation than Shin. Let's see about the head. Tiny little another joint underneath the neck. Not very much joint there at all, though, really. The soft, well, no soft goods, but the hard, like, you know, skirt around him is cut into 3 pieces. That should help him a lot more with being able to move around. No knee armor, just the pants that come down. They kind of swoop over a little bit to allow for the knee to poke out there. It's kind of a fun design for knee armor, or I should say just knee placement. Much better design on the shoes. You see that nice little dip right there? Yeah, guess who doesn't have that? If you look at the front of the shins, Baylan here has that nice little dip up. Shin is just a hard, flat material, which is why Shin's legs don't do that. All right, take a look at the hand here. See, I can prefer this much better. His offhand has the trigger finger. Why does a Dark Jedi or a Force user who you are not giving us a gun with, or any blaster or anything like that, why do they need a trigger finger? Why does he need a trigger finger? All right. Hopefully not as difficult as Shin's saber to get in there. Definitely just so freaking wobbly. And it honestly throws me off every single time I go to put it in their hands. It just bends immediately. We definitely got more hilt here at least. And again, with this finger sticking out on the other hand, it's not a big deal. It just, with Shin, it makes that saber sit so much more forward for no reason. Yep, there it went bending in the hands. It just immediately did a full, like, 90-degree turn there when I tried to push it through his hand. He can put both of his hands on it. It does hold. It's such a long lightsaber. I gotta see if he's the same size as Malgus or not. Alright, let's see if we can get him in some poses. Alright, let's see how he stands up on his own. Look at that. Already way improved over Shin. See if I can't get this other arm more over. This one up on top. Trying to see if I can't give him like across the body, but that probably won't work, so he might have to be a little bit more side. And that's fine. It's very hard to get these figures to be able to move that arm over more because, I mean, there's a chest there. So that doesn't really bother me all that bad. Twist right there. And speaking of, the twist does happen also right at the knee joint. Okay. So we have a nice little standoff to the side with the saber raised high. I believe in this show, he always kept it like down here because it was such a long saber he didn't need to. Does that have bend in it? It does. I can almost see a little curve from the hilt because it's super freaking bendy. I really don't like that, if you guys can tell or not. Man, they're really kind of taking away a lot of articulation in these figures with these really thick skirts on. See, actually, that might actually be what the hamper is his skirt is now bunched up like deep behind him. Oh, we have another Very loose saber. It's already come out of his hand. Nice mid-stride kind of pose there, walking up to Ahsoka to do damage or something like that. So already at least he's doing better than Shin did, with this pretty much being the only pose I could get her in. He can kind of walk. He could have a bit more of a regal look, hand behind his back kind of thing. Yeah, nice little ponderous view as he's staring off. I have every single other one of my Dark Force or, Dark Jedi users. Every single one of them is lightsaber out, active and ready to go. I don't really know if I want either Shin or Baylan to have their saber active, because I don't like that saber in their hands. It's so floppy and their hands don't hold it like at all. Strange decisions made by the Hasbro team. I love the figures' looks. They both look stellar. They look brilliant. I'm feeling a little let down here, I'm not gonna lie. The first figures I've opened in 2024 from the Black Series, and two figures that I really, really was looking forward to and I really loved, and they don't have it. They don't have the oomph that I was kind of hoping these two figures would have. That pops in nice. The top part, like it'll bend right there. That is so ridiculously bendy. I've never seen a lightsaber that bendy before. Let's go get a shelf shot. Alrighty guys, and here we go. The new dockside shelf put together, moved around a little to allow more space for these two. They really fit the shelf well. They look really awesome. Baylan's lightsaber is definitely on par with Darth Malgus's. And they really, really fit the aesthetic of the bunch. I love these two figures. I just honestly am so let down by the super bendy lightsaber hilt and the lack of posability from those really tough skirts. Maybe the next time, though, we'll get something even better. Guys, thank you all so much for joining me. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the Shin and Baylan figure. Have an amazing rest of your day. And, as always, may the Force serve you well.